And so we're drawing ever closer to chapter 100, which I'm actually kind of looking forward to because sometimes Mashima does a little special something something for anniversary issues. Well, I say issues, but chapters. But we also know that this isn't being drawn by Mashima. It's being drawn by Atsueda, with Mashima like doing some of the rough outlines of certain things here and there. So I don't know if Atsuo is on that Mashima level, because we know that Mashima has all these assistants and stuff like that. So I don't know if he'll crank out something extra, especially now that he's got that game with Square Enix that I heard there's also getting a manga adaptation, which I'm just like, Mashima, do you never tire? Which is a lie. I know he gets tired from time to time, but it's just like, this man, he's doing what he loves, and he ain't gonna stop anytime soon. So this is technically the first bit of Mashima content kicking off the new year. 2022 is here, as long as you're in Japan, to a certain degree. But this was actually a fun way to kick things off, as we pick up with Laxus versus Kirin, and Kirin is really giving Laxus the runaround. I love that this dude uses his coffin as a friggin' melee weapon. Like, that's kind of hilarious. I won't lie. And there's something weird about that coffin, as it's almost like it, not only is Kirin swinging the coffin by the chain she has around it, but for some reason it's like Laxus gets drawn towards the coffin as it swings. Almost like it's like drawing him towards it to almost increase the damage done when he hits someone. It's actually kind of fascinating. And Kirin makes it known that he was actually joking about putting Laxus in the coffin. In fact, there's already an occupant in the coffin. There's already someone's soul inside the coffin. The soul of a king. And I'm just like, what does that mean? What do you mean, the soul of a king? So I won't lie, I was actually kind of invested in the battle going on between Laxus and Kirin for a second there, but then we had to cut back to Wendy and Haku, which, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the battle between Wendy and Haku was bad. I actually really like Haku, because he's silly and adorable, with his white tiger hoodie and just going rawr, rawr, grar. It's just like, oh my god, he's so adorable. But I mean, it's one of those things where it's just like, what is his magical ability? What's his special technique? How is Laxus gonna overcome it? Because let's be real, we don't see Laxus in too many down and out fights. So it's just like, getting this, I'm just like, I kind of want to see Laxus fight. I don't get too many Laxus fights. But for Wendy, she's in a bit of a spot of trouble, as Haku has managed to turn Irene somehow into a doll, despite the fact that Irene is just a personality in Wendy's head. And I love how Panther Lily's just like, that doll came from your body? What? And Wendy's just like, I'll explain it later. So Panther Lily buffs up, and he's ready to throw down. He goes at Haku, is just like, let's do this, Leroy Jenkins. And Haku's just like, no, this is a 1v1 versus me versus Wendy. None of you, bad kitty. Here, have some yarn. And apparently Haku's ability to turn people into plushies is that his magic creates basically yarn. So I guess you can either bind someone with the yarn, or if you manage to fully envelop them, they become a plushie. Still kind of wild. Not sure if that relates to the white tiger ability, or if it's just he be he, and he just has more than one type of magic. But Panther Lily very much is in trouble. And the moment that I really loved in this chapter was the one where Haku runs up on Wendy. Wendy, she's ready for that smoke as she prepares a punch, and they clash and you see the shockwave come off of it. I'm just like, yo, that was sick. Unfortunately, again, Wendy's not the most physically combative person. She's the white mage, she's the enchanter, she's the healer, all that good stuff. But, I mean, she can throw down from time to time. She's been getting a lot better in terms of fights. You know, they've been allowing Wendy to actually get the W from time and time again, but in this clash, Haku had the upper hand. And he's a little weirdo. He's just like, my hand touched Wendy's hand. I'm just like, Haku, no. Bad child. And when Wendy questions, I also love how she makes a little air cushion for herself so she can land softly. Wind abilities are so underrated in the series. Actually, it's actually weird that Wendy never ever came up against Aragorn too often, except for in that one like filler story arc, which I say filler, but it was alluded to in the actual story. Mashima's always kind of been interesting about actually wanting to incorporate anime only stuff into the canon of his series, but I don't know. I don't remember Wendy ever actually coming in contact with him. Wind versus wind, because his wind, oof, that was pretty savage. But yeah, Wendy doesn't use her abilities like that. She's not a vicious wind user. But I love Haku's explanation of why he was able to, outpower Wendy, and it just comes down to the white tiger dragon is fast, strong, and super fast, rawr. I'm just like, oh my god, he's so adorable. Sorry. It's just like, he's such a little kid response. So Wendy tries to go in with her signature move, Sky Dragon's Wing Attack, and Haku just out and out just manages to avoid it completely. He's too fast. And so Haku decides to bring out his plushie parade, or should I say doll parade, as a legion of plushie dolls go after Wendy. And the octopus gets a little too frisky with Wendy's no-no parts. Mashima, stop that. But they start mercilessly tickling Wendy. It's so savage. But it seems like Wendy might be incapacitated completely, because while the plushies might be soft, they're oddly strong. And Haku, he starts to think, okay, this might be my victory. Up until one of the plushies starts rebelling and beating all the other plushies off of Wendy, much to Haku's utter bewilderment. And the one plushie speaks and says, Enchanter. And Wendy realizes that voice, it's Irene. And for some reason, Irene decides to explain to, I guess, Haku and maybe to Wendy that an enchanter can bestow objects with powers and attributes. And if you're a high enchanter like Irene, you can imbue objects with your bits of your own personality, which explains why the Irene plushie didn't say anything, because that's the interesting. I kind of thought that maybe this would actually be somewhat convenient, where Irene's personality would just be in the plushie doll, and then she could just transform it into an actual body for herself or something like that, and she just speak through the plushie, because God knows Mashima loves his cute chibi characters, and I thought that's what we were going to do with Irene. But no, she swapped out of the doll a good while ago, like the moment she was turned. And Irene's like, yeah, and I don't have to just do it with one plushie, I can do it with them all. And then all of Haku's plushies get up, turn to him, and you see their eyes glowing like some Chucky shit. Or what is that one series called? Doll Master or something like that? Where the kid like had a legion of dolls who had people's souls at his command and stuff like that. And then all of the plushies in a wave go after Haku this time. And so Haku has been hoisted by his own petard. And this gives Wendy the opening to build up a massive vortex of wind around Haku so he can't just quick escape out of the way. And Wendy goes into full Dragon Slayer mode and brings out the ultimate technique, Dragon Slayer secret art, Shattering Light Sky Drill, and utterly annihilates Haku in one blow. Like, just one solid blow to decimate the dude. And yeah, poor baby Haku's down for the count. And Panther Lily's pretty impressed because it's just like, man, that kid was friggin' tricky as a motherfucker, but you did it, Wendy. But Wendy's kind of down on herself. And it's just like, oh no, Irene's the one who saved me. And Irene's just like, shut your dirty mouth. Haven't you noticed this was through your magical power? Like, that's the thing. While Irene is a separate entity in a manner of speaking towards Wendy, she still has to use Wendy's own power in order to do things. Like, Irene isn't a power-up, she's just another entity. Wendy has already kind of started to grow in terms of magical enchantments and stuff like that. That's the funny thing. Wendy is kind of the true mage of this entire series, as has power that is starting to rival Irene's. She has already become a high enchanter type wizard, which is an interesting direction to go in because Irene was able to pull off some really interesting abilities and techniques in terms of her enchantments. So I'm wondering, can we expect Wendy to enchant other objects, basically kind of make minions and assistants and stuff of that nature? Like, are they really going to do something with this? Because, I mean, I've been waiting for them to really do something with Lucy, and they have yet to really do that as well. So I'm just like, I'm glad that Wendy is getting a little bit of development, though. She is long overdue for something like that. And while this was a very simple and kind of matter-of-fact defeat for Haku, it still was kind of fun, and it was nice that it wasn't, through any BS power of friendship ability that Haku was taken down. It was just like, no, I mean, she got a little assistance from another personality within her, but, it was through all the tools that Wendy already had at her disposal prior to the fight, and that's nice to see. Natsu didn't have to come in and somehow manage to overcome Haku's ability through some BS explanation or anything like that. They were dead to rights, and Haku was just up against someone who was probably the worst person for him to be up against, because he couldn't transform her, and he had all his plushie attack turned against her as well. And it also kind of helps that he was kind of sweet on Wendy as well. So all in all, I'm kind of satisfied with this showdown. It was actually pretty nice. And also, the thing about the Diablos Guild is they've been shown to be pretty damn powerful. But, it was that one moment with Suzaku that just made us think like, oh man, they're so devastating they can take out all of Team Natsu in and of themselves from the get-go and the jump and stuff like that. And it's just like, man, that's a little too tropey with Fairy Tail. So I'm like, what happens when whoever fights Suzaku for like the second time around all by themselves? Is this going to be another instance of, and then bam, Suzaku was completely decimated despite the fact that he was so capable before? And at least with Kirin, who is said to be the strongest of them, he's going up against who is arguably the strongest member of Fairy Tail, although the claim that Kirin is on a level of Gildarts, it's just like, okay. Are we gonna see Laxus challenge Gildarts next? But I wonder if this is how we're gonna go, where we're just gonna have Laxus continuing to go up against Kirin chapter after chapter as the other members of the Dark Dragon Slayer Knights face off against the members of Fairy Tail. And I'm wondering who's the next matchup gonna be, because I feel like we definitely have to have Suzaku go up against Natsu. I mean, that just feels like, of course they're going to do that. Haku is already down, and Masaki, because she's with Kirie, I think it might be Kirie and Masaki go up against Gray and Urza. I'm fairly sure those two are together. But then that kind of leaves the question of, because we know where all the rest of the Diablo Guild Dragon Slayers are at, what happens with Gajeel? Like, who does Gajeel go up against? Or does Gajeel go up against Suzaku, because of the nature of his powers, and it's Natsu and Wendy who end up getting to the end of the labyrinth. They don't actually have a major battle except for maybe with the dragon god Dogramag? Is that what's going to happen? Maybe. I mean, Gajeel wasn't there to originally face off against Suzaku, so I guess that would make sense, and that would give Natsu and Lucy and Happy the hero moment as they deal with the dragon of this arc. But it also makes me wonder what happens if all of Diablos loses to Fairy Tail. What does Celine do? Because honestly, by this point, I've been kind of endeared to Diablos. I don't want them to completely disappear, but it's hard to tell what becomes of them moving forward. And I kind of don't want Celine to be killed off. She's shown far too much personality. Like, that would be the real shame of all of this. Celine ends up dead and all that good stuff. And there's still like 2 other dragons. But also, when it comes to Diablos, they're missing a member to the Dark Dragon Slayer Knights. Like, they're all representative of the 4 paths and Kirin as the middle. They're missing their Black Tortoise member. And then we have the, 5 dragon gods. And we're also missing 1 member there, which would be representative of Sunday, which is, Sun Day. Because Monday is Moon Day, Tuesday is Fire Day, Wednesday is Water Day, Thursday is Wood Day, Friday is Gold Day, and Saturday is Earth Day. So we're definitely going to have a reveal of another Dark Dragon Slayer Knight and another 7th member of the 5 dragon gods. But considering that's, Sun, a sun dragon god, would that ultimately be Natsu if he manages to overcome Ignia? I don't know, I always go down this rabbit hole of possibility, but that's because this story has actually been really fascinating to me, and I've constantly been interested where this is all going, where it's adding up to. I've been solidly invested in the story up until now, and it has yet to actually have a moment that really disappointed me. And I've liked that it's just been one big overarching plot instead of the original series where you had a multitude of different plots that were loosely connected because of Zareth to a certain degree, but not always. So I'm really desperately interested to see what happens next, but let me know your thoughts on anything I had to say here. I'm sorry I went off on such a tangent. There are just so many things I'm curious about moving forward. But I'd love to hear from you. If you liked anything I had to say here, feel free to do all the YouTube stuff. Like, comment, subscribe, bell, whatever. I ain't your daddy, but I still love you like one. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and it was enchanting to have you with me here today. Until next time. Bye-bye.